welcome everyone to the People's House.
Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The governor has put forth a very ambitious and creative proposal.
Even though we've made some progress, there's still much more work to be done.
Welcome back to another edition of the Capital District Assembly Update. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, of course, John McDonald, and our guest today, Carm Basile, who is the CEO or Chief Executive Officer of the CDTA, that's the Capital District Transportation Authority. Carm has been with the CDTA since 1981. I'm so impressed, and has served there in a number of capacities, including as the Transportation Planner, Director of Business Development, and Director of Marketing. All those roles combined well, as he has seen tremendous growth during his leadership. And ridership now is at an all-time high, and the authority has been increasing services throughout the region. Carm, welcome today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Introduce yourself, and we'll start us off. John, or did I skip over John?
I'm here.
Okay.
We're good to go.
This is tough with the two of you.
That's okay. So, Carm, for the viewers, tell them, what is CDTA? Who are they?
Well, we're a public authority created by the state legislature in 1970, some time ago. Basically because small private bus companies were failing back in the late 60s. So the legislature created the authority with the thought of regionalization. It's a word that we hear even today as not being performed very well. But the legislature had the foresight back then to create a regional body to break down the barriers, the walls that counties and municipalities and even areas and hamlets had. So we operate throughout 4 counties, Albany, Schenectady, Rensselaer, and Saratoga, and provide, we think, outstanding service to the people of the region every single day.
And it's true, customer service is number one. It's embodied in all the people, because both Pat and I have been over to visit your facility, and obviously we've been on the buses.
Very proud of it.
You got a great staff, as you know.
Oh yeah.
We do, and I guess I have to say for the record, Carm, as you know, I hear about the CDTA virtually every day in my house. Both my children ride the CDTA to school in the morning, and my husband, who is as green as they come, is when he's not biking in the worst of the weather, he is riding your buses to and from our home.
Your husband is multimodal.
He is multimodal and anything to avoid the car. So he's one of your biggest fans, as you know, and keeps you, I guess, on your toes with all the new apps that you've produced. And maybe you should talk about that, because I do think it's really impressive. We know we're not seeing the increases that any of us would like for public transportation, yet we know, especially since the economy has sputtered a few years ago and still isn't back to where it was in 2008. We know that our ridership, not just regionally, but nationally, is at all-time highs.
Sure is.
It's particularly high here. 16 million is an extraordinary number of people to move.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that?
Sure will. And you know, your husband is one of our favorites, because not only is he a regular rider, but the fact that he's multimodal. He rides his bike either until he gets tired, or until the weather gets bad, which is often, and then hops on our bus. Fixes his bike to the front of the bus, which is the fastest growing segment of our ridership, hops on and completes his journey, not 2 or 3 miles, but upwards of 10 miles. He crosses county lines. He's a regional, multimodal guy, so we love him. But ridership, at an all-time high, we're probably gonna finish the year at around 16.3 million. Since I'm one of the longest tenured people left at the authority, I'm also the sort of crack historian, and I can tell you that that's the highest it's been in my 30-plus years.
It really is telling.
The nice thing is it's not being driven by external factors. It's not driven by the cost of fuel. It's not driven by the employment or unemployment rate. It's not driven by the economy. It's driven by the things that we're doing to make the system better, to make the system more convenient. And Pat, you mentioned earlier, apps and younger people today want to use public transportation. Let's get that 100% on the table clear. But they've changed the way, or they've changed the expectations of us. And John talked about customer service and delivery. They're not happy with knowing when the bus is scheduled. They want to know when it's coming, really. So we're using technology to help us, because the technology is there. Frankly, there's more technology there than we can use and acclimate ourselves to. So we now have real-time apps. You can check the actual arrival time of our buses, either at your bus stop or on your phone. Go out there, and frankly, within 10 seconds, the variation is only 10 seconds, that bus will arrive. That's important because we complain about our weather, but it's a fact. People don't like to wait for buses in rain. They don't like to wait for buses when it's cold. They don't like to wait for buses when it's snowing. So if you can eliminate that wait time, they can stay in their home, they can stay in the lobby of their office building or workplace or school, which is a growing part of our ridership. You started to make the service a little bit more convenient and the experience much more enjoyable.
A couple things. I think if we had this interview 10 years ago, the biggest challenge would have been technology. So I think you're right. You have really embraced the technology, and that has basically addressed those challenges. What are the other biggest challenges that CDTA faces today?
Well, we still have an image problem. To many people, public transportation in a medium-sized city like this, series of medium-sized cities, because we're more than one city, just happen to be in Albany today. To many people, it's for people who don't have cars. It's not New York City, where it's the exact opposite. It's not Philadelphia, where it's the exact opposite, or Washington, or Pat and I've talked about Chicago. In Chicago, you think first about public transportation, second about your car. In Albany, you think first about your car. In Troy, you think first about your car. In Schenectady, you think first about your car. And so we're still fighting the image problem. I think we're getting better. We have focused a lot of time, a lot of effort, and frankly, a lot of money on the condition of our fleet, the condition of our facilities. I believe that if you look good, you feel good, you are good. You need to put a lot of attention into your appearance. You need to put a lot of attention into the product you deliver.
Are you talking to us?
No.
I'm going to tighten the tie.
Well, I know you believe that. You're both business
right,
people.
right,
you understand that. And we are starting to see the fruits of that labor. It matters.
Just like in New York City, when they were able to get rid of the graffiti, it matters.
So that's a challenge. Funding, I know we'd get to it eventually, is a challenge. In America, the riders don't pay the way. It's subsidized. It's subsidized everywhere. Except for the big rail systems. That's you can make money on rail in the big cities. So we require a subsidy. We've worked with both of you. You've been very supportive. I think we're making progress in how the state funds transit, especially upstate. The federal issue is a whole nother problem. The federal transportation bill expires this fall. The federal highway tax expires this fall. It's broke. It doesn't expire. It's broken. There's no money in it. So we've got some issues funding-wise.
But let's, you almost sound like you're apologizing for those subsidies, and let's explain why those subsidies are so important, because it really is such a small subsidy in comparison to what it takes to keep our roads and bridges, that infrastructure in place. So in some ways, in terms of the dollar invested, you are a much smaller subsidy and a much bigger and better return on our investment for that small subsidy. Yet I know it's a struggle, especially as you said, since the federal money is not where it once was. But explain how important that is.
You asked the question and answered it at the same time. In a nutshell, you answered it. But the problem is it's a double-barreled assault. You have state operating assistance, which over the last several years has gone up, but it's barely kept pace with the cost of doing business. Exactly. It hasn't kept pace.
Especially with fuel.
Look at the cost of fuel. Right now, we're paying $3.15 for diesel fuel, which is a very good price. It's locked in. But last year we paid $2.97, and the year before that we paid $3.03. But if you go back and track it over 10 years, we're paying $1 more a gallon. And we operate a heck of a lot of miles. We operate 2.5 million miles. So 2.5 million miles times it's a lot of money.
A lot of millions.
Right now it's just under $7 million just in fuel. So that's a struggle for us. It's a double-barreled whammy with the state operating assistance and federal assistance and balancing that. I am somewhat apologetic because you know what? At the end of the day, the customers shouldn't have to care about that. The customers should know that we're going to deliver a quality product. what's going on behind the scenes between all of us, our negotiations, our discussions. I'd rather the customer not have to worry about that. Frankly, if we have to get them to advocate for us, let's do that. But we should be focused on them, their experience, and ensuring that it's always high quality, ensuring that that bike rack never, ever is not functional, ensuring that we're on time, ensuring that climate control works, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a struggle.
To pick up off Pat's point, though, is interesting because you're right, she did ask the question and the answer. And it's interesting. Let's talk about Bus Plus for, I think, truly an unparalleled success.
Absolutely.
And I remember back in the days when you guys were pitching it to us at the MPO. And, you know, what really sold it for me was this is such a sound investment because it actually reduces the wear and tear on our bridges and our roads.
Absolutely.
You know, this one bus, if everybody bought it on the bus, drops another 30 or 40 cars on the roads. And wear and tear does add up over time. Let's talk about Bus Plus today, you know, what you've accomplished, but also let's talk about where we're going in the future, because it's exciting.
Yeah, and Bus Plus is 17 miles long. It operates on Route 5 between Albany and Schenectady. And we have plans, the flip side of that brochure that you just held up is 40 miles of bus rapid transit. We have 2 lines in the planning stage, actually in the engineering stage. The next line is Washington Western, downtown Albany to the Harriman campus. But here's where it gets interesting. A bus-only lane through Harriman, through the University of Albany, out to Fuller Road, and then to Crossgates. With a transit center, you know, a $25 million transit center at Crossgates. You know, perhaps underground, perhaps above ground. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. So there's another 8 or 9 miles, and then the remainder of the 40 miles is your favorite corridor, the River Corridor, which will connect Albany, Watervliet, and Troy and Cohoes, maybe extending to Waterford as well.
We're winding down here, but I want to say, love your vision. You've always had plans, and I think that that's such a reason as to why we've seen such tremendous growth here. And I encourage you to keep envisioning, and we certainly want to make sure that it's going to grow because it helps all parts of this region, and it is helping all socioeconomic groups.
Sure is.
We're going to quickly wind up by reintroducing ourselves, John, because we skated over that. But again, this is I'm Pat Fahy, Assembly Member for the 109th District, representing Albany and Bethlehem, New Scotland, and Guilderland. John?
Which, by the way, would be the purple line.
That's right, the
And
purple
new
line, and very
Western
good,
Washington
very
category.
good.
And then the blue line, which is the Hudson River. I'm John McDonald, member of the 108th Assembly District, here from Albany, right up both sides of the river to the town of Waterford. Carm, it's been great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It was a great experience.
It's
Come
always
back
fun to
anytime,
talk to
I
you.
hope.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.